What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. It is the 10th day of June. We're moving right through this month, man. We're already a third of the way done with this month. It's crazy. $61,100 is the price. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you all for being here. Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about this. We'll talk about the short-term stuff and the long-term stuff as we go through this video. 11 hours, 38 minutes left in the day. We're down a little bit, pulling back from this area here. We did have the suspicion that we would move up whenever we were down here. The call, I think, was to go a little bit higher, but then once we were at the top, we were seeing signs of weakness, and we called for the move to go down right here. I've been looking at the charts, and I actually believe that we do have lower to go. And this is the benefit of TA, is that you can have expectations, but you can change those expectations as you go, right? Like down here, the expectation was that we'd get a little bit of a robust bounce. But then when we were at the top, literally at the top, we saw signs that suggested we'd move down. So even though originally we expected we'd go up higher, you maintain that kind of flow with things, and you're able to adjust your expectations accordingly if you're paying attention. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is actually to just consistently pay attention and curb your expectations for what the chart is telling you. Let's go over the 1 hour time frame, and I'll show you what I mean, because the expectation that I had yesterday was that we'd make a move down exactly like this. Exactly like this, right? When we were up here, we saw the descending triangle formation from a low to a high. The measure move, or the idea was that we'd go down to the golden ratio. If we were to take a measure move, from a high to a low here, that measure move, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Come on. That measure move takes you right down to the golden ratio. I mean, it was picture perfect, exactly as we were expecting it to happen. But my thought was we'd find support here, and we would move up from there, right? That was the idea. However, we've done some different stuff over the last 24 hours than originally expected. Finding support at the golden ratio is great. Finding resistance here at the 382 is not a problem. But coming back down to the golden ratio and now finding resistance at the 0.5 and coming back down to the golden ratio again and again, you're living here, it makes me think that we're going to break down lower. And Bitcoin, if there's one thing that I've learned over the past, really like this whole past cycle, it's that Bitcoin, for whatever reason right now, is in a phase where it really likes its 786 area. I shouldn't say the whole last cycle, but since this bear markets began, it really does like the 786 area. So we throw our fib back on here. We go from a low to a high. The 786 is the likely next target. Whenever you don't hold your 618 as support, or even if you do hold it as support momentarily, but you're building down, likely the next target area would be the 786, 886. And the thing is, we could go lower. We absolutely could go lower. Right now, the call is 60,200 to 59,700. If we get below the 886, then we can talk about lower prices. But until then, 59.7K to 60.2K, I think, is completely appropriate with some variance, right? We can wick a little bit below these levels. That's fine. But you could stop in between. Statistically speaking, relatively speaking, in the most recent times, what we've seen is that you would go right to the 786 and bounce from there. It all depends on what you do. Here's what it'll look like if we go lower, okay? What it'll look like if we go lower is we will bounce somewhere in this area, and we will find resistance somewhere in this area. And then we'll come back down here. If we see something like that, we come back down here. At this point in time, I would expect that we see prices down as low as 57.7K to 56K. And people will really be calling for the bear market low there. Either that, or we could see some type of fake out where we get a slightly lower low. You could see some type of fake out. It just depends. We'll know that this move down here, we'll know that this move down is completed when we start getting consistent 1 hour or preferably 4 hour closes above the golden ratio. Above, not wicking price action, but closing price action above the golden ratio. Okay. Until then, we're in a state of decay. There's another path that we could take that doesn't involve this. In order to get down here, we just shit the bed. If we do that, well then okay. And in fact, I think doing just this would more heavily implicate that we do see some type of fake out. we do the more methodical thing, that would imply more likely that we go down here. But even so, I would, even if the target is this, I would heavily anticipate a fake out potentially, because it's not even a fake out necessarily. I guess it is. What it really will be is probably stop hunting, stop loss hunting, right? There's probably a lot of people who've gone long here, and this is exactly where they close out their longs, exactly where they get stopped out, where their stop losses are. They've put their leverage to 50x, 100x, whatever it is that makes their liquidation right here. Some people don't use, and these are the degenerate traders. I know because I used to do this all the time, and it does not work. Don't do this. But you would look at the price, you set your leverage to however high it is, to where instead of setting a stop loss down here, that's your liquidation level. So not only are the market makers stop hunting, but they're also liquidation hunting here. In fact, now that we're talking about it so much, let's just see if we can pull this up. If it takes too long to load, I won't do it. But oh, cool. That pulled up rather quickly. Let's look at this here. There's a lot of shorts. There are a lot of shorts piled on. I mean, we go to the 30-day. The shorts have decimated the longs, but there's still a lot of longs, guys. There are a lot of longs piled on in this area. Much more shorts than longs, absolutely. And there will be a short reckoning here. But if we move down to 59K, 59.4K, we clear out about $2 billion in longs. Definitely a possibility. Over the last 7 days, shorts outweigh longs, but there's still a ton of longs. I spoke too soon. It's about $3 billion longs to get down, or $2.4 billion to get down to 59K. Almost $3 billion to get down to 58.5K. Anyways, I digress. Now, what it would look like if we prevail from here. If we go down here and we prevail, and we don't go lower, we don't do that, is that we find support here, and instead of rejecting here, we close above the golden ratio. And I suppose I already said that, didn't I? Going lower and then coming back up and closing above the golden ratio, that will set the expectation that this is the low and that we are likely going above this high. We know that we're going above this high. I'm getting a bit presumptuous that we'd get above the high. Technically, you'd have to wait for confirmation by closing above the 236, but we know that we get above this high if we start closing above that level there, which is at about 63.1K. Until then, I suppose it is possible that we could be in a state of limbo or moving down, but I would suspect that we are, again, being at the base of this dramatic drop, I would suspect that we're more in this area of accumulation and recovery rather than consistent and just tenacious decay. Everybody was calling for the low to be here over the past few days, right? Everybody was. I would imagine there's still some doubt that we're going to go lower. People are like, oh, it's an even better price to buy now. We're going to shake out the markets. We're going to have everybody say, oh my God, we're going lower. Whenever all the people here who were screaming for 30K, 40K, whenever all those people who they were screaming for it here, but then they got really, really quiet up here, whenever they start getting loud again down here, that's how we know that we're probably going to shift back to the upside. They're probably already getting loud right now with this little shift down here. But again, the call overall, since these days occurred, has been, and really it was since the 4th of June, if I'm not mistaken. We did drop a little bit lower, but since the 4th, the call has been that we're going to move sideways, that we're in a staging area, and maybe it's more like this sideways. It could be like this sideways, whatever. It could be some kind of downward sloping range, but a tight range, and maybe it's a little looser than what I have drawn here, but a tight range somewhere between where we are now and $70,000 to $75,000. That'd be my expectation. Did we just pump up a little bit? Hey, yeah, we did. Oh wow. And it is possible that we move up from here. It is possible. But let's just see. From a low to a high, my expectation remains that we would go lower. Just with what we're doing on the fibs, I would think that we go lower. Anyways, yeah, I'm sticking with it. Sticking with it for sure. If we're looking at this on, and again, that'll get proven wrong. My call to the downside gets proven wrong. I would say if we take out this high. If we take out 62.3K, at that point we flip bullish. At that point we can address this as a low. It's kind of an odd low because you've bounced off your golden ratio and you've crowded this area, you would expect to go lower. But if we do move up to this area and get above that high, I would say at that point we can start talking about higher prices. And the higher prices that we'd call for would be about 65 to 66.7K, and maybe even past there, maybe even up to these 67, 68K areas. And that wouldn't happen today, but it would happen, over some time. So, anyways, looking at the 4-hour time frame. Actually, we didn't even look at the indicators yet. 1-hour indicator time frame. RSI, lower lows, lower highs, kind of breaking out of that, but still bearish overall. Stochastics are weird, but that's because you're kind of choppy and sideways. MACD's bearish overall. 4-hour time frame, flipping red here. You do have 3 hours 27 minutes left in this 4-hour time frame. Let's see how this closes. Right now it looks like your bearish momentum is dying off, but let's just see how you close this 4-hour time frame, because if you close it red, you'll be building bearish momentum, and that'll agree with what I was just saying a second ago. The 4-hour RSI, you do have higher lows. You are still maintaining this trajectory here, I suppose. Well, it looks like it's weaker here, right? Bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, and now you're like flirting with death. And I think that you would go lower personally. Stochastics are bearish, MACD is bearish, RSI. It's got a bullish posturing to it, but it's still bearish overall. Daily time frame here. I mean, you could go a little bit higher, but with yesterday's close, I would suspect that we go a little bit lower and we see a lower daily close than what we had here, lower below $60,500 if I had to guess. And that could happen today. That'd be my suspicion. The MACD is also bearish, and if we were to go lower, we could build some bearish momentum here, give us some bullish divergence to go off of, not just on the RSI, but on the MACD and probably the stochastics. Stochastics look like they're finding resistance at the oversold zone. Makes me bearish, guys. Doesn't make me bullish, it makes me bearish. So, but overall, don't get it mistaken. Bearish to a very fine point. Nothing dramatic. Short term, immediate term bearish. Overall, we're really neutral. I'm suspecting that we're in some type of sideways moving phase. It might not be that tight. Maybe it's better if I draw it like this. And we, maybe at the highest, we're somewhere up in this area here. We consolidate, and then it's July, we start to move down, or maybe it's late July, August, then we start to move down. However it looks, I suspect we're going to do some stuff like this. We're going to do some stuff like this. And I think that this consolidation phase here will be shorter, smaller than these last two consolidation phases. But time will tell. We'll see how it goes. I've got nothing else for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, hit the like button, please, and thank you. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Take care. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.